Hello, welcome to this week's show. Today I'm going to cook for you something with one of my most favourite proteins, and that is quail. I've just been given some quail, some duck and some spatchcock from Game Farm. I absolutely adore their produce and I thank them very much for sending it along to me, so I thought I'd make some dishes for you. Now today in this show I'm going to use quail, but over the next few weeks you'll see some more recipes using some game as well. So we'll do one with duck and one with spatchcock. And if you're a game lover, then I think you'll like these recipes. These are just my own version of recipes. Game Farm actually put out a beautiful book using two of their products, and I've sort of adapted a couple of their recipes, but I've added a few extra ingredients in that I particularly like. So today we're going to be making a warm potato salad with quail, and we're using the quail as a whole quail, but what I'm going to do is cut it in half, down through the centre, spread it out and roast it in the oven, and then serve it up with the salad and the vegetables that we're going to add to it. It really is quite delicious. So let's have a look at the ingredients first and foremost that you're going to require for this particular salad. All right, obviously we're going to use a quail. Now, if you want to use quail medallions for this, you can do that as well. It doesn't matter. I've actually got whole quail today, and it looks nice for a presentation, so it's something worth thinking about. The reason I do like it as well is if I wanted to serve this up for an entree, it actually looks very spectacular on the plate, and that's always a plus. So that's why I've gone for the whole quail in this particular case. We're going to be working with some red onions, some garlic, a little bit of rocket. Now you can use any lettuce that you like, or any greens that you like rather. I've just chosen rocket for today. Some beans which I've already blanched, and you can come back to the website to see how to do that. It's very, very simple and easy to do. There's a video on how to do that as well. A little bit of prosciutto. Now you can also use bacon if you choose, or even a pancetta will work quite nicely as well. I particularly like prosciutto, which is why I've gone down that route. We're going to be working with some potatoes, and I've particularly chosen Kifler potatoes, and the reason being is they are a gourmet potato and they bake up beautifully. They've also got quite a delicate flavour, quite a nutty flavour, which I think adds to this particular salad quite nicely, especially when it's served warm. And the other thing I like about them is that, you know, one or two of these is perfect per person, so they're size-wise really good. Now you can also use rosemary for this, but I'm actually going to use a little bit of fresh thyme today because I like the flavour and I think it goes really well with game. And we're using some seeded mustard. Now, I'm also going to rather, add a little bit of beetroot in. Now, I've already roasted the beetroot. You can also come back to the site and see how I've done that. I roast my beetroot in with the skin on it rather. I wrap it up in foil and then bake it in the oven. Then I take it out and I slice it. Now, when we do that with this, I will in fact wear some gloves because it does bleed excessively and it will go everywhere. But the colour and the flavour that it adds, and I'm serving this part of it cold, so the beetroot itself will actually be cold, but the rest of the ingredients, particularly the potatoes and the onions and the garlic and the prosciutto, will come out of the oven warm, as will be the quail as well. And the dressing we're going to be using is in fact my basic vinaigrette. All right, so I've already got a little bit of it in here, and we're going to be adding to that a couple of other ingredients. So a little bit more of the seeded mustard will go into there, and a little bit of red wine vinegar. And that's the great thing about this basic recipe, is that you can use it for so many different things, and all you have to do then is add a few extra ingredients. So let's get started, and the first thing we need to do is to get the bits and pieces that are going to go into the oven. Alright, so the first thing we need to do is to prepare our quail. So to just take him out, and what we're going to do is we're going to open him out. And using just a pair of poultry shears, which is what I use, just turn him over, and we're literally going to cut right through his breastbone. Now if you've got a pair of shears, this will be a lot easier to do. If you try to do it with a pair of scissors, it won't be quite so easy. Now if you want to cut off his neck, you can do that. Some people do, some people don't. I do tend to cut off the neck. And what we're going to do is we're just going to put him over and we're going to spread him out. So what we'll end up with here then is a nice flat piece of protein that will be a lot more easy to work with. And what I'm going to do is brush it with just a little bit of the seeded mustard. In fact, it might be just easier to pat it in and coat him all over. And place that into a baking dish. Alright, so we're going to add to that now our potatoes, and we're going to put that around because we're going to bake all of these together. Now just taking your Kifler potatoes, you can actually just cut them in half if you like. What I like to do though is cut them on the diagonal so that they're a little thinner, they take less time to cook because our quail is only going to take about 20 minutes or so. So now just place those around the quail in the baking dish. Now to that we're going to add a few other ingredients for some flavour. So our thyme, just crush the thyme leaves up over the top. Some garlic which I've already chopped, just sprinkle that around. Some red onions that have been pre-sliced. And some prosciutto. Now what I tend to do with my prosciutto, or whatever I decide to use at the time, is just to lay it gently over the top and it will roast off with the rest of the ingredients. Now you may need to open your oven though and take that out a little bit earlier, but we're just going to put a few slices over the top and all of that will go in the oven. And then just a drizzle of olive oil. So that's our ingredients now. They're going to go into the oven for around about 20 to 25 minutes. So while we're waiting for the quail and the vegetables to cook in the oven, I thought we'd prepare the rest of the salad. Now what I'm going to do first, hence I've got my gloves on, is prepare the beetroot. Now the beetroot will weep, or bleed rather, so you want to make sure you've got some gloves, otherwise it's going to be a little bit messy. Now I've already roasted my beetroot. As you can see, there's some good colour coming out of that already. So the first thing that I'm going to do is literally chop it up into wedges, and then I'm going to shape them just a little bit, just so that they look a little bit more attractive on the plate. You don't have to go to this trouble. If you really want to, you can, or you can just leave them as slices. It's all up to you. For some people it's just about eating the food, for other people it's also about presenting them. So all I do is take my wedges and I'm literally going to create them like a little torpedo. So we're just going to shape them a little bit. Now I'm using a little bird's beak knife because it's the easiest to manipulate with. Your beetroot, if it's cooked well, will be nice and soft, so just be careful with that. Okay, so once you've finished all of those, take your scraps and I said use those up, don't waste them if you don't want to. They make a beautiful dip with some cream cheese or even some cottage cheese. So onto the plate we're going to add our layers of ingredients. So the first one's going to be the rocket. Now I've already washed my rocket. I'm using rocket. Now as I said to you earlier, you could use any greens that you like. With this, I just think rocket's, it's a nice, I like the flavour of it for a start, but I also just like the texture and I like the fineness of it, so it doesn't sort of overpower the plate. Now my beans, I have already blanched these, so you can just arrange them however you like. Remembering our quail is going to go into the centre of this, so you don't want too much on there. And then our beetroot. So I'm actually going to place these just around the edge of the salad so that they sit underneath our quail when he comes out of the oven. And how many of those you do is up to you. Just tidy up your plate from some of that juice. And then last we'll get our dressing ready. Now remembering I said we've already got the dressing made because this is my basic vinaigrette. So what we're going to do is we're going to add some other ingredients to that. So a little bit of our seeded mustard's going to go into there as well. This is a taste thing, it's up to you. Now I always make my dressing in a very large container and I'll leave it sitting in the fridge. And when I need it, I just take it out, let it come to room temperature, shake it up, pour out what I need. Now whether I use it as is or whether I actually add other things to it, depends on what I'm using it for. But I do use my dressing for quite a lot of things. So I just use little jars like this, makes it really, really easy. So there's our dressing ready to go, and that will be drizzled on once the rest come out of the oven. Let's go and see how they're going. Well, the quail is now cooked along with the potatoes and the prosciutto, which I did take off during the cooking process. I only left those in there for about 5 minutes because they crispen up quite quickly, and also they were laying over the top of the quail. If you don't take that out, then the quail won't brown up, so that's important. What I am going to do is I'm going to lift the quail out, and I'm actually going to cut that in half. So we'll just put the potatoes aside for the moment. And again, using your shears, your poultry shears, just cut him right down the very centre. Now you can separate him up more than that if you like, and depending on whether you're serving this for a main or for an entree will depend on whether or not you give someone the entire quail or you only give them half the quail. That is up to you. So what I'm going to do first is just slide him out of the way for a minute, and in here with my potatoes I'm just going to lift them off the base of the pan. They may be a little sticky, so just loosen them a little bit. Try to keep the shape as much as possible. And before I lay those into the rest of the salad, I'm actually going to break the prosciutto up in with them. I'll leave one piece to serve with, but we actually want it in pieces all the way around that as well. All right, time to serve up. So we're going to start with our potato and prosciutto, then our quail, and I'm going to put both pieces on. And of course, last but not least, our dressing, which we will drizzle over the top. And the prosciutto right on the very top. Now that is quite a large serving, I agree. But if you were serving it as a main, I think you'll find it's quite easy to get through that because there's not an enormous amount of meat on the quail, remember. There's quite a lot of bone in there as well. Thanks so much for your company this week. I hope you've enjoyed the show. Don't forget, over the next few weeks we've got a lot more game coming up as well, so some more recipes I'm sure you'll love. And I look forward to connecting with you on the website, also on Twitter and Facebook if you're into social media. And right now, if you come to the website, if you're not already a member, you can come and register for free, and you'll get updates on when things are added to the site. But you'll also get a copy of the Little Black Cookbook, which has all the base recipes for all of the major cooking that I do. It's an e-cookbook, and you'll get that absolutely free if you register now. Thank you so much again for your time. I look forward to seeing you again next time on Kitchen Girl. I'm Victoria Hanson.